Good morning on the first day of March in 2018. It is episode 363 of the 359 podcast, and your team today consists of, but may not be restricted to, Ben, Joan, and Alfred. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Hi.
What do you mean may not be restricted to?
I like the music,
That's
by
just
the way.
legal mumbo jumbo. I got to cover all our bases.
Jumping out of, if someone's popping out of the table, it isn't.
It's just covering
It's
tracks,
gonna be.
man.
It's Roger. All right, let's get to the lineup today. We've got Joan here to talk about the Spotify IPO. They filed yesterday. Joan wrote all about it, so we'll be quizzing her on all sorts of Spotify and Apple Music and streaming stuff. Alfred is also here to talk about various things relating to the cyber and the internets and pipes.
Thanks for reducing my beat to that.
Okay, whatever.
Cyber and the internets and the pipes.
So there's more information about the Equifax leak. Apparently, even more people were affected. I don't know how much this could possibly matter because literally everybody was already affected. And then Alfred's also going to be talking about Samsung's new intelligence scan, which is a multi-tiered biometric.
Yes, and it's not as secure as they say it is.
And
Yay.
and that's on the Galaxy, Samsung S9 and S9 Plus. Anyway, send in your questions and comments. BVG will get to as many as he can at the end of the show. Let's get to the podcast, and we'll see you soon.
All right, here we go for the recording of the audio podcast. We'll be back to take your question, comments in the chats in 3 minutes and 59 seconds from 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359. I'm Ben Fox-Rubin.
I'm Joni Salzman.
I'm Alfred Ng.
Spotify filed its long-awaited IPO yesterday. It's apparently, this is a placeholder, but apparently it's going to be like $1 billion IPO. Everybody's really excited about this. Joan, you wrote all about it. And apparently they released some numbers for the first time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So we've always had outside numbers about how big Spotify is relative to competitors like Apple Music and Tidal and others. But by nature of having to go public, Spotify has to really show its cards and say not only how many subscribers it has, which is 71 million, but also how many monthly active users it has, which is, I think, 149 million people visit every single month. In addition to how many subscribers and users it has in
159 million.
Yeah, in every region, and say how big they are compared to their competitors.
Which makes them, they said, we believe we're twice as big as Apple Music, which is our next closest competitor, which means Spotify is very much here to stay. They seem like Netflix also really became huge as the video streaming player. It seems that Spotify is very well positioned to do basically the same thing in music streaming, right?
Yeah, in terms of their adoption, they're doing great, still growing. It's their finances that are just a wreck. And that's not just them. It's everybody that is streaming music because royalties they eat up so much of your money. Spotify's argument has always been the bigger we get, the only way to make streaming money, make the finances work is just to become
get more
so
folks,
big.
get more customers,
have that scale. And it seems like it is working, but even as they get bigger, their losses get bigger too.
So really quick, what are they hoping to get out of this IPO? Why are they going public?
Well, they're doing it in a really weird way. Normally an IPO, a company is trying to raise a bunch of money and they have banks go on a thing called a roadshow and they pitch it to people and people get to kick the tires and figure out what the company's all about. And then they put in these safety things. They buy some shares in advance to make sure the shares don't go crazy. Spotify is just basically here's our ticker symbol. Anyone who has our shares can trade them now. They're just flipping a switch to let them be public. And they're doing that. They're not raising any money. They're just making it liquid to be able to trade publicly because of some terms and some debt and investment that they had. They need to go public. They just don't want to do it in a way that is normal.
Okay. That sounds pretty grunge and edgy, I suppose. Also, we've got some more news about Equifax, the massive data breach that compromised personal data of 143 million Equifax users last year, also impacted an additional 2.4 million users. The credit reporting agency revealed this morning, right?
Yep. So Spotify likes to talk about how it has 159 million users, right?
Right.
That's about as many people that were affected by the Equifax breach. So
Ouch.
it started with 145 million Americans that were affected by it. 143 million, sorry. And then a month later it said, oops, sorry, it was actually 145 million. So with this breach today, with this announcement, it's not a new breach. They just found more.
Wow.
The additional 2.4 million, it brings the number up to 147 million Americans affected by it. They're catching up to Spotify. But the idea
In the
so
best way possible.
the reason why this wasn't announced originally is because they were only looking for stolen social security numbers. This additional 2.4 million is only names and driver's license, but only partially. So it doesn't have like your home address, that all that info on your driver's license, but it does have like other info that would be on your driver's license on there.
I'm so relieved. We also really quick wanted to get to Alfred. You and Shara Tipkin wrote about Samsung's new intelligence scan. Tell us a bit about that.
So they announced this at Mobile World Congress on Sunday. This is a combination of iris scan and facial recognition. Iris scan is much more secure than facial recognition is, just because you can put a photo up to, we've written stories about this before with face scan. You put a photo up to it and it gets tricked by it. So they're saying, oh, why don't we do iris scan so that, you can just scan your eyes on it and then it
works better.
Yeah. But the problem with that is that even though it's more secure, it's not as convenient as facial recognition because it's hard to like track your eye a lot of times. So like, oh, why don't we combine it? The issue with that though is like when you combine it, you're adding a less secure element to it. So you're essentially like kind of like poisoning the water here where it's like, oh, now we have this less security measure kind of like dragging down like iris scan too. So
eventually they'll figure out something, I guess.
Yep.
Anyway, if you want to read more about these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Jenny Salzman.
Malfording.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for that, Alfred. We were missing that.
Yeah, you said you missed it yesterday.
Yeah, it totally threw me off my game. I had no rhythm left over. I like the rhetoric of this being called the intelligence scan, as if it's like, well, if you're a dum-dum, I'm not going to open my phone for you.
Yeah, but it's... I mean, so we didn't talk about this on the podcast, but what's the best thing to use, Alfred?
Just use a pin.
Just use a pin?
It's like
what about the pattern thing? That's what I use.
Yeah, so I've talked to you about this before. So the pattern thing is like theoretically more like as secure as a pin is. Because in the sense like a government can't like tell you like put your pattern in like because it's like knowledge that like you contain. It's not like your face or your hands or anything like that. The issue with that though is that like it's very stupid. So like if you continue to do the pattern a bunch of times, it'll probably leave like a smudge on your phone. So if I like have your phone and I don't know what your pattern password is, but if I put in like certain lighting or something and I see like there's a smudge on there in the
if you
shape
see
of your
the
pattern,
mark of Zorro,
yes,
you'll know what I'm up to.
Yeah, so like if I just see like a Z like smudge on your phone, like that's probably his like PIN password, and like I could try that.
All right, maybe I'll switch to a pen.
Good obscure reference, by the way, Ben. I appreciate that.
The mark of Zorro.
Yeah,
of course. I'm kid of the 90s.
Yeah, so a lot of security researchers usually just recommend like biometrics aren't really there as like a way to like be the most secure thing possible. They're usually there to like make it really convenient for you. Like, oh, I can just look at my phone and it
but what about the fingerprint scan?
It's also like a convenience thing.
Oh, lame. I thought that was
supposed
to be secure.
It's no, like they're all secure to a degree,
right.
But if we're saying like what's the most secure, it's like most of the times it's a PIN.
Okay. That is useful information. And also, you've mentioned this on the podcast before. The big difference is from a legal perspective, the government can compel you to use a biometric. Yeah. They can have you put your fingerprint down to open your phone with Touch ID, but they can't compel you to do
passwords. Passwords are protected by the Fifth Amendment. Like you can't like self-incriminate yourself on these things. So passwords, they consider that self-incriminating because like you have to give up something that you know. Like that's like knowledge that's like not out there. But like biometrics, like eye scans, your face, like a thumbprint, like police can already ask you to do that with like, oh, you give them your thumbprints anyway when they ID you, like mug shots and things like that. So they're already capable of asking you that. So that's not like self-incriminating to like give up like something like that to unlock your devices.
Sounds lame to me, but I kind of get it from a legal perspective.
I mean, elephant in the room, imagine Sagi's asking, whatever happened to the fingerprint scanner? Why is that never even part of the conversation anymore?
I mean, it still is. Like, they still use it for the S9. I think it's not part of the conversation for Apple anymore because they got rid of it for the X10
X10.
10, right?
X10 gonna give it to you.
But it's the same problem as Alfred was mentioning with all the other biometrics, is they could just point your phone at your face and open it up.
Or make you put your finger on it.
Yeah.
I say I just went through setting up a brand new phone myself the last couple of days, and I had to go through the whole iris scan, face scan
It
for the
doesn't work
first
that well.
the first time in my experience. I have been working with some Stone Age tech. Don't tell my bosses at CNET that. But I finally joined the 21st century, and yeah, that was a little bizarre, and yeah, it doesn't work.
I did not like the iris
Wait,
scan.
did you? I've actually never used it. So is it better? Like, is the iris scan like worse than like the facial recognition, or?
It's just janky.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, that's the right
like,
word for it.
And I feel like I have to take my glasses off a lot
Yeah.
of the time
That's-
if there's not enough
That's
light in
part
the
of
room.
it. That's why they introduced intelligent scan, though. It's like it's more convenience than anything else. So it combines both of them, so that like, say you're wearing a scarf because like it's cold out or something like that. So facial recognition would not be able to pick up your face, but like because your eyes are still there, like it can pick that up instead. Or like if you're
not
wearing
the way I wear scarves, but sure.
or if you're wearing like sunglasses, but like the rest of your face is still there. It's like a combination of both of them. That does mean that like the threshold to get through to like unlock your phone though is not that great. It's really weird that they promote this so much when it's like if you look at the fine details, you know that they don't trust it that much themselves because like you still can't use it for like Samsung Pay
Right.
or secure folders or like anything that contains your password. Like you can't use that to unlock that. So it's like we'll let you do this to unlock your phone, but like all the stuff that has to deal with money and like actually important things, like don't use this.
So this is also a good conversation I have, but just to convey how broad the spectrum is, sometimes I have a family member that I know that doesn't lock their phone at all.
Oh.
And
It
constantly
makes me nervous sitting
constantly
here.
butt dials me, or I'm like, hello, and it's just like this muffled, in the pocket type of thing. So lock your phone. It's usually better, even if it's with biometrics, than not locking it at all.
Yeah, the entire thought of somebody not locking their phone just gives me inherent anxiety anymore. I don't know
Cool.
what to even do with that information. So let's talk about music. I love how anytime we bring up Spotify, Joan, thank you for this, it instantly turns into a war in the chat about
Oh, really?
what service is better than Spotify. Is it
Interesting.
Apple Music and Google Play and
Right.
YouTube Red, and it's like, okay, they're all kind of on par these days.
Well,
as far
whatever.
as,
It's also whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, the distinctions in music services are mostly product distinctions because at this point, almost with the exception of Apple and Tidal that aggressively try to court exclusives, like a Frank Ocean release and, like Jay-Z and Beyonce and all the people that
All
are
the
aggressive
good
in Tidal.
musicians.
All the good ones. No, that's not true. Except for those like exclusive. Basically, they all have the same catalog. And so the reason that you like one versus the other is if you've already invested a lot of time in building your own playlists in one, because you can't port them to other ones. That's a reason why you love one versus the other. Or if you just like the product, like if you like Discover Weekly on Spotify, that would be for you. If you like Beats Radio 1 on Apple, it's really all product distinction.
Yeah.
And the pricing is all
It's all pretty much
that's-
uniform.
yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Well, no, Spotify is like much cheaper for me because I share it with the 6 members of my family that I definitely live with.
Well, family memberships, like Apple has family memberships, Tidal has family memberships.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, that's not unique to
I'll have to
Spotify.
look into that with
Yeah.
my 6 family
I
members.
do think Spotify might have done that first, though.
Yeah, but the reason they can do that is because of these deals, and so they did it first because they struck the deal earlier than the renewal of other people's deals.
I
So
go
I
ahead.
still stand by Spotify, not religiously or militantly, only because I do enjoy their interface. I think it's a very pleasant product presentation
Yeah.
overall. But like you said, the catalogs are largely the same, but once you get invested in, why bounce around? I will give a nod to Google Play because I signed up for that first because they let you upload, and I have a lot
Yeah.
of obscure stuff that's not cataloged.
Yep.
there are some distinctions. Like Spotify has like the Google Play storage locker is a gigantic distinction for Google Play, and then Spotify, its big distinction is that it has the ad-supported free tier, which nobody else has. Like nobody else has the opportunity for you to go to the service, play whatever you want for free, and then decide later if you want to sign up. They're really the only ones that can do that, which has given them a huge advantage. They said in their, one of the things they said in their release, I think, 60% of their paid subscribers come like the free tier is their gateway
Right.
to coming
It's a
in.
freemium kind of thing. So
Yeah, but it's one that nobody else has.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nobody else can do
I
it.
used Spotify like free for like a really long time until I got an Echo actually, because you can only have like every time I try to listen to songs on it, my girlfriend whose account is on that like would tell me like, I'm trying to listen to music, can you stop? So I had to get my own Spotify account.
Oh yeah,
Like a
Amazon
loser.
Prime Music. What's the paid one on Amazon? Is it
Well, they're all
Amazon
paid.
Music or Amazon Prime Music?
Amazon
They're all paid because you have
Beats.
to have Prime to
Right,
get Prime
right,
Music.
right,
But it's
right.
in Prime Music is included in your Prime
Are they
membership.
much of a competitor in this whole set? Like, are they in the mix? Like, along with
Yeah. Amazon likes to say that they're because they use their Prime subscriber base as they like to say they're the second biggest streaming service
Right.
because it's like, look at all our Prime members. That we
Yeah.
won't tell you how many we have, but trust
Right.
us, we're
That's
number
the same,
2.
That's the same thing that like Google started doing when they were
Right.
like, our voice assistant is way bigger than Amazon's because it's on a bunch of phones, and it's like, okay, you just put it there, and now it's in 400 million devices.
I remember I tried using Prime Music for a bit because I pay for Prime, so I was like, oh, here's this cool new like music service for me that I don't have to pay extra for, and it was just like really hard to like search through their stuff.
Yeah.
And when I was
As a
listening to the
product,
Echo,
That's pretty common.
they
complaint,
like played
that
like
it's a
yeah,
frustrating
they're really
product.
bad at ranking stuff too. Like they
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
like the worst Kanye West songs.
I don't know any like much about this because mostly I play music through an Echo, so the interface is not actually that useful to me. And I'll just tell my Echo play XYZ on Spotify, or I could even default it on my Echo.
Yeah.
So that makes finding and retrieving music a lot easier.
So what you're considered is what they call a lean back listener, whereas Alfred's more of I don't really know. Like you're just more of an advocate and know what you want
I'm like
when
a
you're.
power user.
He's a
Power
power
user.
user. You're
No.
a lean back user.
I
which
just
is
want to
cool
listen
in its
to
own way.
Kygo's stargazing 30 times in a row.
Cool in its own way. Isn't that exactly how we describe Ben on a regular daily basis?
Cool in his own special way.
In my own right. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Do or Do Not in the chat, who's bringing up kind of an evil elephant in the room about some of the sticky wickets about Spotify and their lack of representation and possible proper financial distribution among their artists. I don't know if that's something we really want to address, but considering we are on the topic of finances with Spotify,
Right.
is this something that's going to impact them long term? Are they going to make some
So,
business changes?
It's always hard to talk about how artists are getting paid because does he have a specific complaint or is he just like is it just a generalized artists don't get make
It's
don't
very
make
much
enough?
that same generalized argument we've heard several times now that
Yeah.
like Spotify cheats their artists.
Okay, well then most artists are participating in Spotify through their label.
Right.
And so the people that are screwing over the artists are the label. Because the label is the one that strikes the deals and
Correct.
and decides how much strikes the deals with the artist, decides how much they're going to pay the artist, and also strikes the deal with Spotify to determine how much they're telling Spotify they have to pay it. So I understand, like, there's definitely like as we have this shift in people moving from buying music to streaming it with a subscription, and that's where most of the money comes. There's a lot of people in that transition that are getting a short end of a stick. Artists are one of them, but it's not necessarily Spotify that's the bad act. Spotify doesn't want to screw over artists. They want them to make money. It's just they don't have that control over how much they make unless you're an artist that owns your own master recordings, you own your own rights, you don't have a label, and you deal directly as possible with Spotify, then you're in the most control.
Which
of how
sounds
much
to me
streaming
very
you
rare, right? Like there aren't
It's
a lot
becoming
of
more
artists
common.
like that.
It's becoming more common, but
Did they change that system fairly recently about how you can directly interact? Because I remember it used to be a real big uphill battle if you were an independent artist to try to get your content onto Spotify.
I don't think it's as hard as it used to be. It's just a hard thing to do. Being an artist a completely independent artist is just hard to do because there's so much you have to do. Not only do you have to be the artist, you have to be in your own PR, you have to be in your own publicist, you have to be your own distribution, you have to do your own song. I mean, it's just a lot to do. And so anything additional to that's difficult, like getting onto Spotify is hard. But there's things like Cobalt, which is this sort of pseudo label that lets you, it's like a white label thing that lets you own your own master recordings and helps you to get onto Spotify, even though you aren't having to cede any of that sort of copyright or royalty power.
Thank you. I'm really glad you brought that up because people do forget that it's not just like Spotify's doling out checks. There's a whole line of bureaucracy in the way.
Yeah.
And artists do ultimately probably get cheated a lot of times, but you can't just point one finger in this process. It's a whole system.
The part of Spotify that doesn't pay out, subscriptions on Spotify pay relatively well compared to the ad-supported, when you're listening to a Kanye song with an ad versus when you're listening as a subscriber, that listen with an ad pays less to Kanye ultimately than
Poor
the subscriber.
Kanye.
I know, poor Kanye.
That's
But the thing that really hurts artists' pockets is lots and lots of streaming on YouTube because that pays like pennies for thousands and thousands.
And there have been very vocal complaints about that.
The industry has been very vocal that they are not happy about YouTube.
Yeah, but like, who is the industry? Going to what you were talking about with Spotify, is that also related to the labels? Because if anything,
the labels
I'm getting,
don't like it.
Oh, the labels also don't like it.
No, the labels hate YouTube. But YouTube is going to be launching a new streaming service. This is their third attempt to have a Spotify-like, Apple Music-like service. And so in the last 6 months, they've been part of the reason that the music industry has been so vocal in the last 6 months, year about how much they hate YouTube is because they've been renegotiating with YouTube to get better rates for the third iteration of a subscription service that they want to launch this year.
Did they name it yet?
Anime music videos 2014.
Wait, is this
No,
is
it doesn't have a name yet.
this is a further distinction from YouTube Red?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they're trying another one.
It's going to be like
Gonna try it.
YouTube
Third time's a
Bright
charm.
Red.
YouTube Blue.
YouTube Blue.
YouTube Blues.
Sure.
Red versus blue. Great.
Goku edition.
Always blue. Always blue. All right, more questions.
We just have a few minutes left, but the throwbacks, Yahoo Music. Oh,
Wow,
and,
that takes me back.
Shout out to Scott Myatt, a man after my own heart as always. Vinyl, Google Vinyl. I want to see Google Vinyl and the radio.
So, like, besides streaming music, vinyl is the area of most growth in the music industry.
Because collecting is fun.
Collecting is fun. It's a retro, like, normal human beings that are collectors. I have vinyl. It's like a upsurgence. It's definitely like, and like so much so that there's not enough. The production of vinyl is completely like overbooked. Like, there's not enough people that can actually press the vinyl. To keep up with demand right now.
That's kind of cool, but it does make sense to me to a certain extent that, like...
And also, EDM is growing in popularity.
I don't even know what that is.
Electronic dance music.
Oh, Ben, you're cool in your own special way.
You know what, guys? Back in my day,
come
it
to a
used to be
rave with
called,
me.
it used to be called electronica. That's what I knew it as. And I would go to Paul Oakenfold concerts and whatnot. So.
No, you didn't.
You
You were a
wanna
Sure I
raver?
did.
Did you wear the big pants?
I was not a
with the
raver,
sticks?
but like
Let's
if
go
I
to a
went to
rave, Ben.
concerts, I would go to electronica stuff
Call it EDM.
Aphex Twin was
EDM, bro.
cool. I mean, like
Drop the
conspiracy
bass.
theory. Anyway, whatever.
Damn it.
Okay, so just with a few minutes left, we have Huey Yeg. Do you think you will see music streaming services turning the way video streaming did, with more services emerging trying to lure customers with exclusive content? Expanding on this, and I thought this was a very fascinating topic, was Gopal, who says, what if these music streaming services became their own record label?
Right, yeah. So those are good questions, and those come up a lot in conversation about where the industry is going to go. So for first question, like moving in the direction of a Netflix, original content, yes. Like Spotify is already trying to do that. Apple Music is already doing that. Tidal's already doing it in the way that it has like concert series and stuff. But Spotify and Apple are both making Apple's original television stuff initially has been based out of Apple Music, out of their streaming music product. And they're only just now widening it to non-music related content. But in terms of being a label, pretty much uniformly across, definitely Apple's like, we're never going to be a label, because they've been asked that over the course of like a decade, ever since iTunes. They say they're never going to be a label. They're not interested in that. Spotify, I've never picked up any interest in them in being a label. But it's, and the reason is because the economics of music are so much different than the economics of video. And so for Netflix, there was an economic incentive for them to own their own IP of all this stuff, not have to deal with licensing with other people. Whereas with music, you don't really have that benefit, because all you get if you become a label is you own master recordings and you have to get more embroiled in this ridiculous, like licensing for music is just the worst. It's just so complicated.
Oh,
and so messed
yeah,
up.
it is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. And so that's the like effort to the labor you have to take on for that, it's like more risk than reward if you were to become a label and a streaming. But I could be wrong. I mean, it could be a way to actually change the music industry so it can be more functional. As if there was somebody that came through and was like, we're going to be a gigantic label and it's not going to have any of the bullshit.
I never thought that deeply into it, but holy cow, you kind of like opened a door in my brain about this concept. I just love that Gopal was saying like Netflix originals for music.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen like technically the BBC One, that's an original radio show that Apple owns. I mean, that in itself is an IP.
Yeah.
Why not original concept albums? Like,
and I think because the marketing, because not like different with video, like music is more than just producing a show, putting it out in the world and marketing it, or producing a movie, putting it out in the world and marketing it. Like music also involves live performance, involves a lot more merch. That merch is crucial, and it's just a lot more complex than as an owner. Like the thing that you do as a label is a lot more complex than what a production company does for a movie or a TV show.
Ben, do you like craft work? Strange Joy needs to know.
You can say yes. Why not?
Wait, does that relate to like Warcraft in any way?
It relates to electronica.
They were electronica legends.
No, I don't even know who those are.
Oh my god,
guys!
He's
I'm
cool
a
in his own
square.
special way.
I'm a square in the New Jersey suburbs, and I don't need you guys to think I'm cool or not. Anyway, thanks for the question.
We do.
Strange Joy.
In your own
we
special
do.
way.
We do. You sound like you mean it. No, it's cool.
we should go to a rave. 359 rave edition.
That would be awesome.
That'll
we'll
be
do it for
episode
our
500.
Next, yeah, we'll
Episode
do it for our
500.
next milestone. We'll just have a rave with glow sticks.
Still good questions coming in on the chat, but we are out of time for today and for the week.
Wah, wah, wah.
Sorry, guys. We'll definitely have to come back to this. I always
Yeah.
like talking music with you, Joan.
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
I do too.
And that's
Roger will be back, I'm pretty sure,
crap.
on Monday.
Bummer.
Just
and
kidding,
he'll
boss.
Be, he'll be.
We love you, boss.
He'll be able to tell us all about Mobile World Congress. He'll be coming back from that, and we'll be back. We'll be back on Monday. So, Joan, thanks very much for telling us all about the music industry and explaining to me what EQM is and
EDM.
EDM, dude.
Oh, really? EVM. Sorry, guys. Sorry. What was it? EMV.
Electronic dance.
Mary J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige. I totally know who that is. Okay. The 359 podcast is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, the Amazon Echo. Srinjoy told me to say this. Live stream also. You can
Live
watch
stream
it.
YouTube and Periscope daily, every morning.
And, of course, CNET.com. Thanks, everybody, for watching. It's been a great week, and we'll see Roger back and everybody else, hopefully, on Monday.
Hopefully.
Well, not us.
Maybe after this, I
Not
don't
him and
know.
not me.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll be gone on after Wednesday.
Okay. I'll just cry by myself.
Cool story, bro.
Cool.